Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Leica Street Photography Collective. I'm Ricky, and today's wonderful guest is Ash Cooper Kerns. So, once again, thank you for taking the time out of your day, giving a listener something to listen to. I appreciate it. They appreciate it. We all appreciate it. So, please introduce yourself, where you're at, where you've been, what you do, anything you'd like the world to know.
Oh, okay. That's a little broad, but thank you for the invite, Ricky.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I'm a photographer and a former lawyer and a former art director and all the things. And I just kind of tend to pursue what interests me. And right now, I've gone really back into photography in a more sustained way.
Okay.
I'm based in Los Angeles, and but I love to travel, which is where we met.
Yes,
in Tokyo.
We did. We met in Tokyo in mine and Phil Penman's workshop. It was a great time.
Yes.
She is an amazing, aspiring photographer, artist, and she has a really good outlook in life. I really enjoyed talking and learning from her. I learned from the people during the workshops as opposed to teaching. It was a great time. So thanks for joining that. I appreciate the connection we made as far as photography friends. So you said lawyer or ex-lawyer and art director kind of feels the stereotype like only lawyers and doctors buy Leicas, huh?
Yeah, it felt that way when I bought the Leica. But in my defense, it was many, many years after being a lawyer. I stopped practicing law in 2009, and I got my Leica in the end of 2024. Okay. So I feel like there was enough of a gap.
Okay.
But yeah, the reason that I bought the Leica was because my mom was using a Q2, and she let me borrow it, which was a jerk move on her part because she knew once I had that baby in my hands that I was going to want one myself.
Yep.
And it reminded me of my first Pentax film camera. Like everything about it was just the right thing. So I totally drank the Kool-Aid and I got the Q3. Yeah.
My pun was intended, by the way. I told you my brain works mysterious. Yeah. I don't know. It was just super fast. Anyways. So post lawyer Leica purchase. Got it. So not during your lawyer career. Okay. All right. Enough of my bland dad jokes. So please tell us really your journey into photography. You mentioned you had a Pentax film camera. Is that where you started?
Yeah, I actually started. I got inspired because my mom collected photography when I was young, and my dad loved photo books. And so I would be able to flip through and all of that. And they both were part of the entertainment industry in their own ways. So I also had the benefit of being on sets behind like the video village and the monitors and stuff. And I fell in love with visual narratives, because I would sit where maybe I didn't even have a headset. So I didn't even hear the dialogue from the mics because I was just focused on that. And my mom, noticed that I was really getting excited about, using her camera when I was young. And so she sent me off to like a summer camp, which was it worked for both of us. It got me out of the house and stopped driving her crazy. And so I went to Williams College for the summer. I studied with photography and theater, and I studied with a woman named Evie Lovett, who I'm dying to reach back out to after all these years and let her know like what a difference it made. But I learned there how to develop my own film and do my own prints and, had a dark room. We ended in an exhibition. And so that kind of started my journey into it. But it was always street photography. It was always candid. I preferred, being able to kind of capture moments rather than construct them. And so as far as the start, that's really where it all started.
Okay. So you were learning, I would say, like composition at a young age, right? You said you were watching the monitors, so and you can hear. Does that translate into how you kind of focus on your composition now? Was that like inspiration as a child, kind of like your mentorship of composition?
It was it's like osmosis, right? You know, you're kind of around it. If you're paying attention, if you have an interest in it, I started to feel like, you know, I'd watch these entire productions kind of play out, and then I would see them cut these trailers together and see how they gutted everything to be able to tell a story in less time. And so that was the first time that I was like, okay, I'm seeing more stills. I'm seeing more of these how these fragments tell a larger story, and it felt more accessible to me. You know, I think more than anything, I was overwhelmed by the idea of directing and film and, you know, TV, whatever, because there were so many moving parts. Like with a still camera and street photography, it was kind of like I was the one that needed to be paying the most attention. I was the one that needed to work. I didn't want to have to, it wasn't complicated in the same way that an entire crew would be for video. It's different now. I mean, this is, you know, I started in 1994. So, you know, but yeah, it definitely influenced me. And I went to NYU, and I built my own major where I studied Vietnam conflict and film, but it was more about the portrayals of the other and you know, enemies and war and nationalism. And, you know, like I had this fascination where I was able to study a whole, you know, arc of films and narratives. So it became kind of an obsession. And then just looking around every day, I found all these moments where I was like, oh, well, that's great. But they definitely fed into each other. But yeah, the jumping off point was really when I started to kind of go, okay, I can tell a whole story. You know, the picture says 1,000 words or whatever. You know, I could tell a whole story in one moment.
I do got to say that is really interesting. I wrote one down. You said compression and storytelling, and I'm learning how to master compression. We were having a discussion before we started recording about poetry, and the biggest, one of the most important aspects of poems is compression. Is how do you say the most in the least amount of words? And this is very challenging, which I like to think. I didn't really kind of like think of this concept until I started doing mentorship under Joseph Michael Lopez. I didn't really hear it, right? I was still learning, but he said like photography is poetic. And I was like, how can the two, like, I didn't understand it then, but then when you start seeing the similarities, like, I think poetry or photography itself is poetic, right? And how you tell that story is the hard part. Compress. Tell the most in the least amount as possible. And it kind of is in my ideology of and philosophy of photography in general on how I do like my 10, it's always 10 images, and each image has to play in another, and they all have to support the central thing. Again, poetry, it's very similar. So I like that you said compressed storytelling. I'll get into more on your aspect a little later, but I do want to ask, I never heard Vietnam film studies in school before. Did you go into Napalm Girl?
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, it was more, I had the benefit in high school of having a teacher who was a Vietnam vet. And he actually taught a class in high school where he brought in his 8mm film from when he served. And our textbooks were, soldiers' letters to home and things like, it was a much more, I wouldn't say organic, right, but a tactile way of learning about Vietnam. And I had, my grandfather was in the military and at D-Day and things like that, but that was so far away from me. But for some reason, I just was so captivated by how America changed in the 70s. And I felt like Vietnam was really the catalyst to that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, Apocalypse Now, and all the things, all the films of that type, Full Metal Jacket, and oh God, I mean, there's a huge list. But I basically picked teachers at NYU in the Gallatin division who could work with me, and who they knew I just wanted to better understand this kind of like how we tell these stories in a more objective way and humanize both sides.
Yeah.
In a wartime story.
There was a movie, sorry not to keep this in the movie aspect, but we're kind of there. It was, I forgot the name of it, but basically it was life seen through the experiences of Germany during World War I. And like, one side thinks they're the good guys and the other side thinks they're the good guys. And growing up in the U.S., like we're taught like America's number one, we're the good guys no matter what we do. But just to see the story from the other side was an interesting standpoint. So I like that you said that. And then I've been watching and learning a lot through like film compositions and like the color theory in that regards, even though I'm a black and white photographer.
Yeah, I was like, color theory for you.
Yeah, I didn't really understand this unless you really study it. But like everything in film composition, it means something, right? So like certain lines down the middle to separate the characters, it's symbolism. And I was like, oh, wow, like this can translate into just still photography as well. Because if you can, compose your images in the streets, right? Not in the studio, unless you want to do it in the studio. Then you have a more versatile and impactful like tool set.
Yeah, agree. It was really an interesting kind of way to learn about it, because it was so different than, the kind of stuff that my parents did, because they weren't in film, they were in television. So to be really studying these productions that were, now, you have so many phenomenal productions, and you did then as well. But as far as like television, they weren't kind of as thought out. Now it's on a whole other level. Television or streaming is like film production now. It's so over the top. But at the time, the films were really where I felt like you could learn the most about those things, the silhouetted, the villain, these kind of archetypes that were defined during that time, and, helped kind of very much a propaganda machine, or the antithesis of that, right? Starting to break away at the city upon a hill theory for the US and for America. So it was like that. I found it was really great. And I also thought being able to humanize people, when you do street photography, often you don't interact, and how do you capture people where they're not caricatures? If you're going to capture and display their face, how do you make it this universal kind of experience or way that we relate to each other? And so I do think that there was definitely lessons that I applied from that.
So how do you do it? How do you humanize those people in the streets?
Well, I feel like I watch a lot. I try to find, these moments that I try to grab. And it's not always moments of sadness. Sometimes it's moments of joy. Sometimes it's complex moments where you have one family and all these different emotions happening at the same time. Like, I don't like it when things feel like a stereotype or a caricature, where you see the facial expression or the body gesture that you would expect on, out of some other. So for me, that feels like a way to humanize and is to, make them relatable.
Would it be safe to say you don't really want like the obvious? And what I mean by that is, I got all of the ideas in my head, but like you don't want to do something that's like standard, I guess would be the word. Like, oh, this person's just kind of doing that. I don't need to take that.
Well, yeah. I mean, you from the workshop, if everyone else is taking the shot, I don't want it.
Yeah.
If everyone else wants it, I don't want it.
Yeah,
It's like very much a revulsion. I'll be drawn to something, and if I see it and I grab it, and then everybody else gets there, that's a different thing. But if everybody else is already shooting it, I'm immediately.
Yeah.
I got to be first, not to beat them, but because I saw the moment first, and it was organic and real, and like once that's the only thing with these group workshops, or if you're at events where there's other photographers roaming, like parades, we love to go to parades, we love to whatever. I don't know, it takes it away from me as far as my desire to capture it.
I'm sorry, I had to laugh. Not at you, but you were absolutely right. Is people, especially in the group workshops, they tend to collectively gravitate towards that one shot, especially like the one that the big name guest that's teaching is with you. And they're like, stay at the hip, and they're waiting. As soon as they see the camera go up, their cameras go up, and it's very common. But you're right. Like the originality out of that is really like. And I'm not saying that's not an original shot. Everyone's gonna take the image differently. They'll have their own flair. But that was. I remember that specifically, and I was like, I'm gonna have trouble with this one.
I know. It was day one, hour one. I think that you were already like,
we were like 3 minutes in, and I was trying to learn what kind of photos she liked, and I asked the question.
Right.
I don't take those type of photos. That was it.
Yeah.
And I was like, all
right. I didn't really articulate what I meant. You're like, all right, this is a great start.
Yeah, it was
4 days.
And it was a great, amazing 4 days. She's an amazing person. But I do kind of want to go into like how your photography has evolved from where you started, going back to your productions, to where it's at now along those lines. I know we were kind of hinting there, but kind of like your process and your whole vision on when you're out there making people human.
So, I mean, I'm so less street oriented right now than the other stuff. So I don't know. I mean, as far as the street moments, what I'm finding is when I was just in New York in May, April, for a bit in April and a bit in May. And I, at night, started going out and shooting at night, like seeing the city at night. And not like New York at night where you have, the clubs, things like that, but just how things were lit and everything. And I realized I was starting to take much more abstract street stuff because I just started to not be as interested in what's happening. I mean, sometimes I will see a moment between two people, or I'll see a contradiction in a setting that I'm like, I have to capture that. But I'm so much more focused right now on like other ways to convey emotion, whether it be, reflections of lights or more macro detail shots or things like that. I kind of have shifted away from my normal, although I'm going to shoot this weekend, 4th of July, I want to see everybody in their 4th of July attire and things and whatever. But it's, and in that case, those times in the last couple of years, I started very much shooting from the hip, and I'd shoot from down here. It was a result of a lot of different things, but as like a woman being alone, doing street photography, like being hyper aware of, and if you can hear my dog barking, I'm sorry, Leo. But being hyper aware of my surroundings and feeling like the camera was getting in the way of my safety, like for me to take the time to really sit and everything. So I started going, okay, I know if I'm standing and I'm facing this way, I know basically where the camera hits. I could start to frame up without even looking through.
Yeah.
And so that became really my mode. And then I could still very much be like, I see you seeing me, seeing you, to anyone that was looking. And so I'm sure that there are other women street photographers who feel the same way. Some, may not. But I for me, it just felt like a necessity. And so then I had to, in these group workshops and other things that I've done, go, okay, you don't need to be, you can take the time, like sit and take the time to really look through and make some other decisions rather than being able to capture a moment that a lot of people miss because they're taking their camera up. So there's a benefit to that, right? To being able to grab that. But yeah, and then I don't know if you want to talk now about my more recent work. Okay.
Into it.
So after I had done a penman workshop in New York last April, and I'd gone to Europe and I'd gone to Spain and Portugal, and I had done like one-on-one workshops with different photographers in Barcelona and Madrid and Porto and Lisbon, just going, I want to see how you see, I want to see how you shoot, I want to see your settings, and then taking what I liked and leaving the rest. So some of them I learned what I didn't like because I didn't like how they shot certain things, or I learned a technique that really helped me with my things. It was kind of this stuff, and I was very much barreling forward through, really digging into street photography. And then I came back from this amazing trip in June of 2025 and got diagnosed with breast cancer. And so I realized, okay, yep, thank you. Yeah, it's just, I was like, oh, well, life is, when you're on this roll and you feel this high and it's like, this is amazing thing. This is okay. This is part of it. And so there were a couple of things that happened as a result of that. I had a double mastectomy the following month, and I had been signed up for a workshop with Greg Gorman, who's a studio portrait guy. He's been around for a very long time. He did a big LA iWorks campaign and has done the headshots and editorial stuff for so many people, along with news. I mean, he's super talented and kind. And I'd heard great things about him over the years. So I signed up for this workshop to learn a bit about studio portraiture, because I'm thinking, okay, how can I support myself as a photographer, or how can I learn more that's going to make me better and in different ways. And I met these two amazing women that at the end of that first day, who were on my team, and they said, well, we should go shoot. This is great. We had 2 more days of the workshop. We should go shoot together. Like, we've got such great energy. And I'm like, yeah, well, in 2 weeks, I'm having my, everything cut off, and I'm
shoot that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, no. This is like, I'm getting my tips cut off and I'm going to not be able to pick up a camera, So when I can, they're like, wait, what? I was like, yeah, in 2 weeks. I'm like, actually, yeah, 2 weeks Monday. And they're like, wait, are you doing a pre-op photo shoot? And I said, well, I wanted to, but people who offered, I just wasn't sure. And blah, blah. And they're like, we'll shoot. We'll do it. We'll do it. And I was like, there's a certain point where, you realize that you're only going to have this body for another 2 weeks. And it served me well. In some ways and on others, but I really did think it was important to document it. And so I posed and sat for this portraiture session. I mean, they showed up the next day. They had chosen some days that worked for both of them. One of them had hired a makeup artist. I mean, it was like crazy. These women just really showed up for me. They're still very dear friends of mine, we really support each other. And so I sat for this portrait session that, I hadn't been in front of a camera topless. Like, I hadn't been, like, this was all new. They hadn't shot nudes. It was like a crazy, weird experience, but it was really, really wonderful. And I wish that more women would do it, because I think there's something really freeing about it.
Yeah.
But I also kind of looked at the pictures and thought, okay, so that's what they see of me. And I was processing that, right? Because I also was trying to understand what had just happened to me. And, a month goes by after the double mastectomy. I'm cleared to go to another party, or go to a party. Like, I'm cleared to drive, sort of. I still have to keep my arms down. I still can't do all this stuff. And this really phenomenal photographer, Jamie Johnson, who I had met and done an interview for her, with her for some digital magazine. Anyway, she has this great series, Growing Up Traveling, The Traveler. She's been in all these Leicas and galleries all over the US and everything. She's fabulous. And she was having like a cocktail thing. And I went, she invited me and I went, and I was like super awkward and like because I just didn't know. I was like in a dress that didn't fit, and I didn't feel human. I didn't feel, and this is all relevant. I know it seems like I'm going on a major tangent, but it's all relevant because I met from this. It was an entire party with all these photographers, even though I didn't talk to anybody. I talked to like one person, Michael Rababi, who is a LA based photographer, and he curates a show every year that I was then invited to be a part of. Like, it was she introduced me to people that really opened up the world for me in LA. And she introduced me to another photographer who, in talking to him, I'm sure what you're saying is interesting, but I can't pay attention. Like, I'm masquerading as a full human person, like as a well person. Like, I can't. I'm sure you're great. And he's like, "What are you talking about?" Like, like, yeah, I just had this double mastectomy. I just got cleared to go out. I can't. I was just malfunctioning, right? And he was really kind, and he was like, he had done pre-op photo shoots. He'd shot a lot of nudes as part of his own personal project. And he's like, "Would you want to sit for a portrait?" And I'm thinking, I have these expanders in. I'm like still healing. He's like, "You know what? Again, I'm not going to have this body. In 2 more weeks, I won't have the same body." Like, it's like, I was like, screw it. And I remember my mom going like, "Are you going to take your clothes off for everybody now? Like, is this who you are?" Yeah. like whatever. But it was, so I sit for this guy that I don't really know, that I had just been getting to know. And I saw how he saw me through the lens. And it was, different than how my friends saw me. I was different than how these 2 women had seen me. And I kind of went, I wonder, that's when I started going, I wonder what I would see if I took pictures of myself. And I signed up for a self-portrait workshop online. And in a collage workshop. These were all things I did after surgery so that I didn't lose my mind. Yeah. Like, I sat there awkwardly, like keeping my arms down and trying not to do a lot, but being able to use art to kind of like work my way through. But the self-portrait class with Manuela, I think it's Thames, or Thames, I always mess up the pronunciation, was the first moment when I went, okay, now I have an assignment from a teacher, this really talented photographer. Yeah. I signed up for it, and I, expressed that I had not done self-portrait work and that I wasn't comfortable with this, that, or the other. And so I just dove in with her, and that was February of this year. And it opened up a whole other can of stuff for me, like the self-portrait stuff, the nude self-portraiture, like really coming to terms with feeling deconstructed and reassembled after like the final reconstruction was done and all of that. And it was also out of necessity. I couldn't pick up a camera and be on the street. I couldn't, all those things. So the camera had to be on a tripod. Yeah. I had to use, I couldn't. So that forced, just like a lot of innovation for anything. It forced me to kind of really pivot in a way that I had, if you would ask me last year at this exact time, would I be doing self-portrait work? I would have been like, are you out of your mind? Yeah.
It forced you to come out of your shell.
Right. It forced me to try. Yeah. Try to do the thing, the scary thing. And I was already scared and nervous about self-portrait work, which is why I was like, fuck it, I'll do it with my clothes off. Like that makes more sense to me than choosing a wardrobe. Like making those choices about what to wear was like take the clothes off.
It's the easiest and idea do it ever. Yeah.
Yeah. It was literally born of laziness. It was born of not wanting to make decisions. And then I started seeing things in myself, all my, like the marks of not just the double mastectomy, not the reconstruction, not the lymph node biopsy, like not any of that stuff. But instead I started seeing kind of the years of life, I'm 47 now. Yeah. And like going, oh, all the, the stretch marks and the scars and the, just the imperfections that are part of any, like I started really appreciating it in a different way. And that's kind of been the path I've been going down and going more into collage work and text intervention, poetry, things like that I always loved collage. It was like my first love, but I never pursued it because I felt so you know, I'm like Rauschenberg, like these, these artists that I thought I would look at I could just get lost in them for so long. And I felt like I wasn't, I didn't give myself permission to even try like any meaningful way. And this has been like, all right, let's fail. Let's fail up.
Yeah. I like that. So kind of like stepping out of your comfort zone and kind of your evolution of yourself during this whole process.
Right.
And I think this is a very powerful story. Like I'm glad you shared this with you. You know, like some people may be kind of experiencing this similar to you. But I think for me, what I'm trying to like convey in my messaging from this is like, sometimes you just got to do it, right? Like you said, like you had the opportunity and you never did something before, but now you're like, this is going to change and I'm on a clock. So let me just do this now, right? So to those who are kind of in, and it doesn't have to be a similar, it can be whatever situation you need, but you're like, I got very limited time. Just do it.
Do it before you're ready. Yeah. Always. Mm-hmm. Always do it before you're ready. I feel like the times that I've really messed myself up have been the times I waited for when I'd be ready for something. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, I planned that trip to Japan for the Phil Penman workshop literally in the week before the double mastectomy. And I went for a month and I was weak and I could barely carry a bag and all of that stuff. And I'm so glad I did it. Mm-hmm. I mean, I needed that to look forward to in recovery. I needed, kind of like a North Star. And at the time, it doesn't always have to be a trip or a thing, but for me, everything, gets really small when you're healing and recovering. You're just kind of in your room, and
especially in Tokyo too, where we're even smaller in such a large city.
Right? Yeah, exactly. So it was, do it before you're ready, always.
Okay. Yeah. What would you say is your biggest learning takeaway from this whole journey and experience, other than just do it before you're ready? Artistically and photographically, what would you say is your biggest takeaway?
I'd say there's been, my whole life, a lot of the art and the poetry and things like that I've created has come from a place of sadness, or being depressed about something. I always had to separate from depression since I was a kid. So a lot of the stuff where things were rooted, and it felt cathartic and it felt important and it felt like therapeutic, right? All the things that art does, right? It really felt that way. And I think what's been interesting in the past year for me, what it's revealed is I don't have to be depressed and sad to make stuff that I find meaningful, because it's everything that I do needs to be about the cracks, letting the light in. It has to be about the good and the bad all at the same time. I started to realize that I was making some of the work that I'm really proud of, this more recent work, self-portraiture work and everything, when I was excited and had tried new things in front of the camera, and I wasn't in a sad place. I wasn't, and that for me, I think was kind of a critical thing where it changed my perspective about when I could create, how I could create, why I should create, and in the content. It really kind of evolved it. I was just like, okay, you have permission. I am granting you permission, because you don't know how long you have to create, to pursue and be curious with everything that you want to do. And it took me until last year, really, really, really give myself that green light. So that would be my other big takeaway.
Okay. What are you curious about now, and what are you pursuing?
Well, I feel as if I need some other, taking these online workshops has been amazing. Going and being in a, Phil Penman's workshop was amazing, but I feel like I really want to be around other artists that are doing their own thing, and other creatives. And so I've started applying to artist residencies where I can push these ideas forward, have the support of, you know, the staff there. And, so that's been an exciting, you know, thing to feel like that's how I sustain it, or how I need to have some feedback. I mean, luckily, when I first started the self-portrait work, I sent pictures of myself to a bunch of people and said, I sent stuff to you. Like, what do you, right? It's like, what do you think? I was almost like a focus group, and it wasn't that it was going to change necessarily like what I did, but I wanted to understand how people felt, like how the things I was making made people feel.
Yeah.
And that was great. I mean, it was amazing, but I hadn't talked to a friend in 15 years. I was like, hey, I've just started this. Like, let me know what you think. But I feel like a residency will give me the time and space to interact with people who don't know me.
Yeah. So I was really glad that you actually were able to include me into your, I don't want to say feedback, because whenever I do these is really, I learn from myself, right? And even when I write myself, for myself, and when I was doing my photography mentorships with a few different mentor photographers of mine, I would submit my work, and what I was always met with, it was, if my images were not strong, they would say that. But a lot of times, and this is something I learned that even when I do critiques, is I want to know what the intent is, right? Because I don't want to give my subjective opinion about an image until I understand why someone showed me what they showed me, right? And then when you actually get that little bit of information, sometimes now you can kind of understand why a certain image or writings and words were included. And now in regards of if I was to create a photo book, only the reader or the viewer can kind of see what I felt. They don't get a chance to ask questions.
Yeah.
But when I do the mentorships and the workshops, I want to know what a person was thinking before I give that critique. And then, that's why a lot of my questions were intention based. What was the point of this, and how does it connect to that? Yeah. And then after I get that little bit of information, now I'm able to kind of, okay, well, now it makes sense. Now I know why this is here and what this is doing, and versus I'm seeing this image, I don't understand it. And because I don't understand it, this is a horrible image. Not your work, just it's a general statement, right?
Right. Yeah, totally. Yeah.
So I was thankful that you included me in that. It was a lot of really good, strong images, and just to see the journey, right? So I met you in, I don't want to say the most healthiest Ash version of Ash.
Definitely not.
Right?
Definitely not.
To see how far you've come along and where you're at now is amazing journey, right? Nothing's is easy in life, and life's going to keep happening.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It has been a wild time though. Mm-hmm. You met me during a wild time.
Oh yeah. It was a great trip to Japan. It was cold and not cold. It was weird. I don't know. Every time I did those workshops, it was always weird. It was just hot for some reason when it should be cold.
Yeah. It was much warmer than I expected, especially carrying all that gear around.
You did good too.
Thank you.
So are you working on any other projects currently other than the residencies you've been applying for? Something that you're doing for yourself, maybe?
Not necessarily. I mean, I'd say I started getting into more macro botanicals and plants and stuff. I've never been a plant person. I know I'm from California, and you would think I'm some crunchy granola, whatever. But
and cactus.
I know, but it's more I started seeing a continuity with plants and flowers and everything where they had been damaged by environmental whatever, or an animal, and seeing how they healed. And so while that was part of one of my series and projects, I've found that I'm going really deep down this rabbit hole of light and living matter, and really trying to shoot at times of day that where the light is is helping draw attention to all the veins and all the details and all of those things. So I don't know that is directly tied to the residency stuff that I'm doing, since that is primarily, but I never thought I would be doing macro pictures of plants. I mean, I was like, I think flowers are pretty, but I didn't really, and I love being under a tree, but I hadn't really gone, oh my God, like there's so many types of bark, and I'm like curious, but I haven't gone online to go, I want to know exactly what this plant is or this bark is or whatever, because there's only so much time in the day. But that I would say that's just for me. And then I've been really writing more again, but that's serving kind of multiple purposes. And I'm not sure kind of what the next chapter is for me, professionally, outside of whatever this is that I'm doing. Like I don't have a direction I'm heading in necessarily. But, there's, I feel really lucky that I get to be directionless at this time, because I feel like the creative direction is taking precedent, and I'm very grateful that I'm in a position right now to be able to follow that. So, we'll see. There's still startups that I, am in contact with in the blockchain world, and I'm hoping that, fingers crossed, that they get funding. There's still colleagues in the Web3 and entertainment world that I'm in touch with, that I hope that we have an opportunity to work together again, because I do have the business and creative brain. Like there is still a desire to feed that, but I don't know what it looks like. I mean, everything's in the entertainment industry and so many other industries is being impacted right now on a multitude of levels. So I don't know, but that's a long-winded answer for not sure.
No worries.
Not really.
No such thing as long-winded. I do gotta say, so if like you see mine, this is a macro shot that I took myself.
Yes.
People experience different things in their life, and typically I don't take pictures of flowers. There was a life transition that occurred, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna buy roses for myself. So I did. I bought myself a dozen of roses. Right, I can be romantic for myself. If I can't love me,
there you go.
Then how can I love other people? So I did. I bought these roses, and I'm a rose guy. I love roses. The scent, the look, what they stand for, and everything. I'm a hopeless romantic. Anyways, so I had these roses, and I was like, you know what? I want to try to shoot macro with my M. It's hard to do. Like you can't see it, and unless you use live view, but that's cheating. So, it's not cheating. It's just I wanted to try with the M, and I was able to capture this. This is actually a macro shot with my, I'm not going to say the lens because people say, oh, you're just, flexing your equipment. So it's a macro shot with my Leica M, and I really like it that I used it as my background. It's a rose, and you can't see the red because I don't put the color in there. Obviously, it's black and white.
Right.
So maybe you can see the little veins and stuff. Anyways, it's to inspire you, like even me, a person who doesn't typically shoot macro roses and flowers, right? For you to continue pursuing that.
Thank you.
That's a long-winded answer. Yeah, I upped you.
Yeah, maybe you won that one.
It's not a competition, I promise.
I know, but that's it, and just it's. Every time I sit down and I, go, I'm going to learn. I'm also learning, Photoshop and learning all the things. Mm-hmm. It's not something that I learned in school or used or whatever. So, I'm trying to give myself the time to learn the technical parts of this, and we'll see what kind of alternative processes I can get into during my residency. And we'll see what the next opportunities are. Mm-hmm. There, I'm not sure. It's going to be what the work demands. If it feels like it'll help me head in a direction that feels right, then I'll pursue it. But
so strip away your residencies. No pun intended here. Maybe there was a little bit of a pun. What kind of legacy do you want your work to, what the legacy you want to leave behind with your work?
I don't really, I guess I haven't thought a lot about legacy. I feel, that it's not, I'm kind of thinking about the right now more than a legacy. And whether it's my art or my life or whatever, I mean, the legacy that I'd want to leave is more about that I continue to stay curious and passionate and pursue different things. So it's not about like, oh, I was the best this or the most whatever this. I've never been that. It's never been my goal. So, and also facilitating I've had so many amazing conversations in real time, which that's nothing to do with my legacy, but about women after or people who have had surgeries where their bodies have been dramatically altered and what that does to your feeling of like desirability and just your feeling yourself. So those dialogues are really important to me. I've found them to be really critical in a way that I didn't expect. But I need those happening now. That can't be my legacy.
Yeah. It's got to happen.
Yeah.
It will happen.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. I guess as we wrap this up, I do want to get some, I always do this at the end of my podcast, people you feel that do not get the recognition they deserve, photographers, artists, poets, whoever it may be. I'd like for you to kind of name them so people are now aware of them and they get their flowers.
Oh, wow. Are we talking about living?
It can be living or posthumously. That's a hard word for me to pronounce. I'm actually surprised I got it.
I mean, I would say Ruth Bernhardt is one of these portrait photographers who did all these nudes that are just spectacular and architectural and feel like sand dunes. And I don't know how many people are familiar with her, but she's very, that's a specific thing. She's gone. But God, as far as people now, I feel like I'm going to shoot myself in the foot by naming people because, I know so many artists and I will leave people out. But, so I feel it's more like every time I stumble on Instagram or whatever, and I get fed something and the algorithm like blesses me with someone who's putting their work out there and trying different things. And I get so excited. And so the flowers are I guess more anonymous that way because are there because I'm really grateful that I know that there's so many bad things about the internet and whatever, but that we're in a time where I can be, while I love going to museums, that I can be in my home and scrolling and actually not doom scrolling, like looking for art that inspires me. So those people that are just putting their work out there without any name recognition, with me not even knowing how to call them or what their names were, that they're feeding the greater universe of creatives and then, poets, like, I think it's Anis Nin, I never know how to pronounce. I'll have to
you can give you,
there's definitely some poets and writers, and Dwayne Michaels, who, we just lost. There's all these people that have gotten their flowers, but maybe people aren't learning about them as frequently until they die.
Yeah. Posthumously.
Right.
Yeah.
Posthumously. But I know so many talented artists out there that I would be doing a disservice by naming just a few.
Well, that's a very humble answer. I appreciate it. Anyways, I typically ask that because I also like to, I share the links with other people and people actually do go visit them. And I'm all about uplifting the community. It's really
totally get it.
Other agenda.
Well, then I would say Manuela Thames or Thames. Like I said, I never can remember how to pronounce it. She who I did her self-portrait workshop. I did her words and images workshop. I think she's super talented as an artist and also as a teacher. And Catherine Just, as well, who does a lot of self-portrait work and collage and does workshops. I think, yes, I want to support artists that are just doing art, but here are artists that are also teaching and supporting emerging artists. So yeah, check them out.
Definitely.
And Sarah Hadley, it was a great collage instructor that I had, and I was also a super talented artist. So, but they all offer workshops in different ways. So yeah, go find them.
Perfect. All right. I do appreciate that. So I will get their information and include it in the show notes. And you mentioned social media. So I typically like to ask this question kind of in the back ends because I don't really think it's important, but I do want to help promote your work. So if you'd like to give yourself some shameless plugs, websites, Instagrams, Facebooks, anything you own and you'd like to share.
Yeah, I mean, it's all Ash Cooper Kerns. So on Instagram, it's Ash Cooper, at Ash Cooper Kerns, Kerns. And my website is ashcooperkerns.com. But those are the main places that you can find me right now.
Okay. I'll definitely get those in there. So I do want to thank you for your time. I know you're a busy person. I appreciate it. The listeners appreciate it. So thank you for joining. Any last words before we depart?
Always a pleasure.
Always. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
And to the fans, listeners, and supporters who made it this far, thank you. I appreciate you. Ash appreciates you. And I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you guys. So I just wanted to say thank you. And again, thank you to you. This is Ricky, Ash Cooper Kerns. This is the Leica Street Photography Collective.